Yeah, there we go. I'm live. Hi, everyone. Dallas Piana here. And sorry about this morning. Had an issue with just power blowers outside, right outside my window. They're kind of late this year cleaning out the gutters because we had so much rain in November and December. They just couldn't get out. So today there's no rain, so they're out there. But just as I was going live, they are on top of my roof, blowing off the leaves and scooping out everything. So I had to switch it up today till to this time. So if you're hopping on, say hi. Just mention below, and I'll keep a look at who's hopping on. And today is, it's a really important conversation I want to have with you. And it's pretty much, the beginners, but it's always a good review where you're at in your journey of building your business online, right? So the title of this live today, this presentation was, the riches are in the niches. How to maximize your profits by niching down. Now, some people say niche, some say, there are other ways to pronounce it. I'm kind of like, from the West, so I say niching. But what does that mean? It means being specific, okay? You will maximize your profits if you become specific in your market of who you are serving, okay? And I will go over this as well. Now, interesting, it's easy to remember the riches are in the niches. This is an old saying, a marketing saying. I mean, I must have heard this, way back when, at least 10 years ago, when I was in network marketing, because I was at the time, people were also saying another kind of, cute little phrase was, if you're selling to everybody, you're selling to nobody. All right. You've got to narrow down your focus. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to be too vague in your message. Your message is going to be generic, just like everybody else out there. And yeah, you are competing with, there are a sea of coaches out in the world that are doing exactly what you're doing. And so if you're vague of who you're helping and your message is like, just like everybody else, you're going to become a commodity. And what happens when you become a commodity is there's competition based on price and not value. Okay, if you are saying the exact same thing as 10 other coaches in your industry, in your field, then you're competing based on price with each other rather than on the value you bring to the market. All right, so what is value? How much value are you bringing to the market? Is the more specific you can become, the more value you can zero in on providing value at a very focused, um, you know, uh, way, which will actually increase your value, increase your price. Okay, so that's why you want to niche down. Okay, so you really want to concentrate on a couple of. I'm going to do some basics here. Let me just pull out my notes here. Okay, so when you are deciding, let's say you went to coaching school, you come out and you want to be a health coach, but you really are looking for where are you going to be specific, because health coaching is huge, right? The industry is huge. You can go so many different directions, right? You can do weight loss, and then there's all the different types of modalities of how to lose weight, correct? You could do, inflammation. You could do menopausal women. You could serve so many different varieties of people. You could be a fitness coach, a yoga coach. You could even throw spirituality underneath health industry. Okay. But the point is, whatever area that you are drawn to, you want to be sure that there is a starving market. Okay. That people want what you have to offer. Okay. Because if you don't have people that are desperate and in need of what you're offering, you're never going to make money. So you want to make sure that there is what we call a starving market, a hungry market. Okay. That people want what you have to offer. So, there's that great story about a guy with a hot dog stand, and the hot dogs are not that great. They're soaking in water, in a bin, in a stand, and the buns are not even toasted, they're just plain. And he's got mustard and ketchup in pumps in his stand, but he positions his stand outside of a coliseum. So when the coliseum lets out at night after a ball game, and 60,000 people come out, they're hungry. Okay, they're hungry. It's the end of the game. They maybe have drank too much. Maybe they want to grab a hot dog before they get into their car. That guy is serving a hungry market. Okay, he knows where he's positioning his cart so he can serve his. Okay, so that is serving a hungry market. So you want to make sure that whoever you want to serve, they are desperate. They want what you have to offer. You also want to make sure that they have buying power, right? That they don't, that they can purchase and spend money on what you have to offer. All right. So there are people that are in helping students do well, getting into college or scoring well in college. I mean, I would not be marketing to college students because college students have no money, right? Or I wouldn't be marketing to as a resume writer, producer to people that need help with their resume. They're just starting out because they have no money. Okay, so you want to look at who has purchasing power to buy your product as well. You want to make sure that your target market, your ideal clients, they're easy to target. Okay, they're easy to attract towards you. Okay, they either belong to a group that you can get into, an association, they're on a list, something, okay, that you can easily find many of them. And it's a growing market. It doesn't mean that, once you tap into the market, that's it. There's no more people. There's no fresh faces out there, okay? You want to make sure that there's plenty of people coming in that you can present your offer to that are seeing it for the first time. Okay, so those are considerations when you're deciding who are you going to be serving. The other thing you want to look at, there are basically three types of main markets, right? It's health, wellness, and relationships. Health, wellness, and relationships. Basically, everything falls into one of those three categories. Now, let's talk about generic. Let's talk about health first. So generic might be that you are a health coach that helps people lose weight. That's pretty generic. Okay. You want to go, 3 to 4, even 5 layers deeper to niche down in that market. It's called get into the subcategory of that market. Okay. So weight loss is one category. So take it the next step. So for instance, weight loss for women. Okay, how can you further define yourself? Maybe it's weight loss for perimenopausal women. Okay, so that could be women that are between the ages of 45 to 65 or 40 to 70 or something like that. Okay, so you kind of narrow the focus down on who of women want to lose weight. That's a different message, a different conversation that you're going to have. A different way to promote your offer that you're going to have when you're talking to people that are in the menopausal, perimenopausal phase of life, rather than someone that wants to lose weight because they want to find their soulmate in life, okay, which is the earlier part of life, okay? So that is a way to kind of niche down. You could even go further than that, right? So it's weight loss for perimenopausal women using what's the modality? Plant-based dieting, okay? Or keto way of life, or Mediterranean dieting. Further differentiate yourself in the market. Because what happens when you do that? You become very good and your message gets really clear because you're talking to the same people over and over and over again, and you will pick up on the nuances of that particular market. And you'll be able to speak their language and communicate with them of where they're at and where they want to be with ease, okay? And you can actually provide more of a uniqueness to your offer and what you're providing, what you're promising when you narrow it down, right? Increasing the value, you can increase your pricing, increase profit. Okay? Because if you think of it, if you're selling something only for $1,000 and you want to be making, $10,000 a month, you've got to sell that to 10 people, right? Now, are you going to be able to get 10 people? How easily is it for you to get 10 people every month? It's much more difficult when you need volume, okay, rather than less volume at a higher price. Okay, so let's look at wealth. Let's say you're building, helping people build a profitable business, okay? And the subcategory underneath that would be that you're marketing to women, okay? And then you are marketing to women or that are in the spirituality field, okay? So here you have women that are marketing their spirituality programs to other people. Okay, so that's your targeted market. You're getting really specific. And then you can go even further is how are you going to help these people? Are you going to do it through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? Like, how are you going to help them? What is the method or the mechanisms that you're going to use to help show these people how to build their business on a particular platform? So you want to niche down and get specific. You'll start to get a name for yourself in that particular field. You're going to start to stand out in that area because you are defined. Whereas everybody else, 85% of the other coaches out there are not defining themselves. They're staying in the generic category and barely above water as far as making any money. But the more specific you become, the more value you provide, and the higher the value, the more you can charge. Okay. Also think of it like, a generic physician versus a surgeon. Okay. One goes to school a little bit more than the other, but one is providing a much more specific area of expertise, therefore can charge more because it's associated with a perceived value that is higher when the price is up. Okay. So let's look at relationships and drop it down into subcategories, niching down. So let's say you are a coach and you help people with dating. Okay, there's all kinds of relationship coaches, right? But let's say specifically that your focus is on dating, helping people date, okay? Male or female, okay? Let's say it's female. Then you want to even go further down, that you are helping women date who have been recently divorced. It's a whole different can of worms of those people that have been married before rather than somebody who's just starting out trying to find their soulmate. Perhaps the woman that you even go even further narrow your niche is dating for Jewish women after a divorce. So now you've used, you brought in a religion, right? And then you can say dating for Jewish women after divorce using online matchmakers, okay? Rather than social, out there networking. Getting specific. You get known. You get, people will be talking in their circles. Do you know someone can help me with this or that? And your name will come up. All right. So the more narrow a niche you become, the more valuable you become, and the more you can increase your price. Now, let's just talk about value. Also, what does value mean? Let me just move to my notes here because I don't want to miss a thing for you. What makes something valuable, right? So basically, what is it worth, right? The outcome, the promise. What are you providing? Okay, what is it worth to the person? So, in my program, my Client Accelerator Academy, one of the exercises we do is what is it costing the person to stay stuck? Okay, so what is it costing them in the areas of physical, mental, financial, interpersonal relationships. Okay, those price tags on that, although you don't see it as money, they add up and they are worth something to the person. So what are your outcomes or your promises to people when they go through your program? What is it worth? Okay, then you want to look at what is the perceived likelihood of achievement. Okay, is it what you're providing, is it sustainable? For instance, a lot of people will, get hooked up with a coach, go through some kind of diet program, trying to lose weight, but the program is not sustainable over time. So, is your program sustainable? Is the changes over time, will they continue on past 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year working with you? Okay, or leaving, not working with you, actually into the future. Is what you provide through your program sustainable over time? So that's what increases the value of how much you can charge for something, for your program. The other thing that is something that's worth something to your buyer, to your ideal client, and why they would consider working with you is the time factor. How fast can I get results? Okay. The faster you can help someone get results, the more valuable it is. Okay. So even though my program is a year long, okay, people are starting to get results within 2 months. Okay. They're seeing results, they're seeing momentum, things are starting to happen. There's movement in their business. And then by month 3 or 4, their first client. Okay, so I lay out the time frame for them so they know what can they expect to happen working with me. So that too, you want to talk about that. What are the mini milestones that occur along the way if you have a long program? Long program, something over 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year, 9 months, a year. What are the milestones that people will hit along the way? Because in these programs, it's not a course, right? Most of you have programs that you offer, and we know that change occurs over time. So you want to, when you're promoting your offer, your program, right? You want to be sure that you put in the value in time. Okay, when are people going to start to see results? The other thing that makes something valuable is how much effort does the person have to put in to get the result? Okay, is it done for you, done with you, do it yourself, right? So in programs, it's not really do it yourself because most programs, coaching programs, hopefully, are a hybrid, which means there is a digital component where people can move through the videos and the trainings on their own speed, but it's complemented with live interaction or training from a coach or other people that can help you get to where you want to be, right? So in those models is a done with you approach. Also, the more you can provide of things that are already done for the person in your program, it increases the value. So things like templates, scripts, calendars, planners, anything that I can take and then customize it for my own use. Okay, that's very valuable. People don't want to start, building things from nothing. All right. So in my program, I provide the email welcome series so that people can take that and customize it for their own. Okay, they don't have to think it up on their own. That is a value to people that work and jump into the academy. All right. So things that are valuable are what is it worth, the outcome, what is it sustainable, okay, how fast can I get results, and how much effort do I have to put into it. Those are things that are valuable, and those are things you want to consider when you're creating your offer, right? Because you want to have your program be something that you stand out, differentiate yourself from all the other coaches in your field. Okay? The more detail you can be about what you are offering, the better it'll be as well. Okay? Because that's another big problem we're seeing is that people um, are not differentiating themselves. They are not making offers consistently. They are not telling people what they offer. They're not telling them what are the results they're going to get from the offer. So people don't step into it. Okay. So if you can, narrow your focus down, get more specific on who you want to serve, who you want to help. Okay. That will allow you to increase your value, increase your price point so that you no longer are looked at as from a price value point of view, a price point of view, but more what is the value I'm going to get out of this working with you, okay? Which will break you away from the other coaches in your field, and you will not be a commodity, but something much more significant and much more worthy of paying the fee that you are asking for. And then you can ask more for your services. So I hope you took some notes here. We're 21 minutes in. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I want you to consider that. And if you can take your, who you serve and kind of niche it down at least 3 or 4 levels and get more focus on who you're serving and what value you provide, okay? And look at those buckets of how you're going to provide more value so that you stand out, okay? You want to be standing out from the sea of other coaches out there. All right, that's all for me for today. See you on the other side. Bye-bye.